about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. So some of the biggest breaking news of the day, we do have a little bit of breaking news, is that we are going to have a new fighter jet. I believe the Raptor is going to be eventually replaced by a new fighter jet, and Trump and Pete Hegseth and generals have announced today that it's going to be called the F-47. Now that I know what number President Trump is, okay, one of you had to remind me because I was like, I forgot what number. All right, F-47, right? So named after Trump. Not 4547. I don't think they can name a jet 45-47. So it's going to be named the F-47. From what we understand, it's supposed to be faster, cooler, cheaper. It's going to take a while. But what surprised a lot of people is the company that got the contract. It wasn't Lockheed. Northrop Grumman, I guess, decided to drop out because they have other projects they need to focus on. That's what they said. Not Skunk Works, Boeing got it. Boeing got the contract. And this is interesting because Boeing has had a lot of interesting headlines. Now, when I heard that this announcement was going to be made today, I thought of Boeing because Sean Duffy had just been at Boeing and the news had surrounded him overseeing what the hell is going on with all the Boeing issues that have been happening with planes, etc. So we thought this was okay, daddy's home and he's going to, see what the hell's going on and somebody's getting spanked. But once I put the two together, I'm like, wait a second, there's something up. For him to make one, that's nice that he, personally went to inspect what was going on. But those Boeing people seemed pretty happy when he was there. So now Boeing got the contract. I haven't even looked at the stock. I bought some stock when Boeing was low. So we'll see what happens. It just, the stock, like Northrop Grumman, it's like $400 a share. So the aerospace industry stocks have been definitely going up and down, especially with the volatility between the presidents. But now this is a huge, huge move. But this is supposed to be the next generation level for air dominance. And everybody seems to be really, really excited about this design. I don't have a lot of information on that. Again, this is just being announced now. But Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Phantom Works, Skunk Works divisions of Lockheed Martin were the sole competitors for the engineering and manufacturing development contract. This is a $20 billion contract, not to mention hundreds of billions of dollars over the contract's lifetime. But, when I think about it, I know a lot of people are like, Boeing, why Boeing? This might not be a bad idea. We cannot have Boeing fail. Whatever's been happening with the airplanes has been an absolute cluster in a seventh. The problem is Boeing is one of the main, we don't have a lot of others. Airbus, we have other manufacturers, but we don't have enough. Boeing needs to be fixed. And maybe this is the way to do it. Now that they get this contract, the government is going to be all up into the retroperitoneum. And for them to maintain this contract, there has to be quality. Right? There has to be accuracy. There has to be a really, really good jet. And my guess is within the legalese paperwork, if they continue to have issues, no, they lose it. Somebody said, well, then why don't you just go with Lockheed Martin? I don't know much about Lockheed Martin, but from what I hear in the industry, Lockheed has a lot of issues. And thank God we don't have, those issues with consumer flights, civilian flights. But I think Trump wants a company that is going to do what he says. And this is a great way for that company to be like, yes, sir, this is a huge contract. F-47, I thought it's cute. It's named F-47. So now, Trump is going to want to, in this presidency, make sure his presidency doesn't get forgotten or marred by the liberal media. And so he wants there to be a something that goes on, for future generations to be able to remember. Whether people remember whether the Raptor 22 was not a 2022 issue or a president of the 22nd president, but now the F-47. And I wonder if that's going to be the next thing where depending on what gets developed later, is it always going to have the number of the president? But the F-47 sounds exciting. Their design was finalized in 2024. The Air Force extended the technology maturation and risk reduction contracts to allow the design's further progress, and then the winner has been chosen. This is huge. So I love the idea of America having air dominance. This is a huge step. Having family in aerospace engineering, you'll hear a lot more about this kind of stuff from me because I'm just so fascinated by it. But we have the best military already. We do. We have the finest men and women on the planet. And giving them the right tools, giving them the right technology is the way to go. And even though, President Trump and Doge and Elon Musk want to cut money, when you have the need for a less expensive and better quality, although the Raptors are fantastic, still, this is the way to go. So, but it's just Boeing. I know. I almost, I almost I dropped my water bottle, but it makes sense. It does. It does. The government's been working with Lockheed for a while, and I'm not saying Lockheed was any part of this contract stuff that's been going on. But one backstory might be when Doge and Elon Musk were going through contracts, they might have found more culprits with one company versus another. And if that's the case, they're not going to be in the running. And so I don't know. I don't know if that's the case with Lockheed or Northrop Grumman or any of them. But the fact that Boeing got it means for some reason Trump thinks he could work with them and that they'll do the good job. So we'll see. F-47, 1877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah or X, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So another headline you'll see is that today is match day. And a lot of you are like, what is that? What does that have to do with me? Do we say happy match day to people? It's more for the medical students and for academia. And match day is, though, pretty important. And yes, indirectly, it does affect you. The future of our healthcare system and the students and the residents very much end up affecting you down the road. And so I just want to tell you a little bit about what that is. So basically, I went to high school, 12 of them. My folks moved a lot. Then I went to undergrad at UNLV. So I'm a rebel. I got running rebel fever burning in my mind. Anyway, running rebel. And then I had to apply to medical school. So I applied to medical school, and I didn't apply to a lot because I couldn't afford the application fees. I only applied to 2 schools. You had to pay for fees. I didn't have the money. Remember, I was working at Jack in the Box. I was tutoring. I was working 3 part-time jobs throughout undergrad. So I applied to 2 medical schools. One medical school that I really wanted to go to was UNR, School of Medicine. And I got in. So I was really, really happy. So I didn't need to know about the second school. And the second school was Creighton in Nebraska. Because a lot of UNLV students went to Creighton. So I was like, if I only have money for 2 applications, I'm going to put my money where I have the best chance of going. And I end up going to UNR School of Medicine, and you do your book work the first 2 years, and then you start to do your clinical work the year 3 and 4. But you have to apply to a residency. Going to medical school, you may become an MD or a DO, but you have to go for a residency. So you have to go for more training. So medical school teaches you the basics, and then you could start start honing in on some electives more towards what you want to do. So I did ENT. I did, I added electives that would make me more well-rounded. But you had to kind of decide by your 3rd year what you wanted to do, which is a problem because most people can't figure out by their 3rd year. That's when they're just starting to do clinicals. But they make their best guess and they apply. These applications go in before your 4th year starts, now or while your 4th year is just starting, and then you apply to get into a residency, which will do your postgraduate training. The minimum amount of years is 3. It could go on till 5, 7, 9 years post-training. So even though I really wanted to be a surgeon, I talked it over with my husband. We were like, we want to have kids. We want to have a life. And I'm like, I could do surgery as a family doc. I could do a lot of different things as a family doc. So I decided to go for family instead of surgery. Could I have gotten into surgery? Maybe. Were my grades that good? I don't know. Well, and, women getting into surgery back in the 90s, not as easily as women can now. I really wanted to be a surgeon, but I'm so went for family medicine. So you apply and you put in your applications and you show that you did research and that you shadowed. And, if you published, great. If you didn't, do what you can. But now it's a lot easier to publish because there's so many sites saying, pay us and we'll publish you. But back then it was harder. And not to mention, I waited tables while in medical school. So I think the residencies were pretty impressed that I could get the grades I did while working and waiting tables every day. But you don't find out where you're going to go for your training until March or match day, which is the 3rd week of March. And you find out that nowadays you get to find out that you made it early in the week. If you didn't, and they said, sorry, a residency didn't pick you, you have all week to try to scramble and find a way to get in to another program. That was very fortunate because even though I was living in California doing my last year at UCLA, I got into a Las Vegas residency. I didn't find out till match day, but that's how I ended up back in Las Vegas. And so I ended up doing family medicine in Las Vegas, and I was really, really grateful for that. And I didn't have to scramble and all that. I got in. But the reason why this is so interesting, and it's not just about medical students and all that, is you basically kind of like a NFL trade or NBA trade. You don't know where your future is going to be. You don't know where you're going to go. But it depends on this whole panel, or it depends on, there's other individuals that are kind of working the strings. And so I'm sitting here in California not knowing, where I matched, and knowing that because residency starts July 1, I'll only have about 3.5 months to move. If I was married to somebody who had a job, they have to quit or transfer. And you basically drop everything for medicine. Now, when you are a medical student, you already are of that thinking where everything is sacrificed. You lose time with your family. You're losing time with your kids. You have no money. It's all sacrifices about going through school. Now things are different because a lot of people are kind of bucking that, going, no, I am going to have a job and I am going to have another career. There are people that have other careers besides medical school. And I could see that because I did. I waited tables and I needed the money, so I could help support a family member of mine. And I'm glad I did. But, people are having families and they're starting to live more of a life. But still, everything gets upended when you have to move. So in terms of the numbers, there are fewer residency positions than applicants. So the latest data shows that there was a total of 52,498 applicants who registered for the match. Now, this is an increase of 2,000 or 4.1% over last year. The applicant pool competed, though, for 43,237 positions. That's an increase of 1,734 positions. So positions increased. But if you look at the numbers, that's flipping ridiculous. That means there's going to be about 9,000 medical students that didn't get in. Now, you could say, well, those medical students, survival of the fittest, they weren't good. Well, no, not entirely. A lot of people who want to go for surgery tried to match for surgery. Then, if they didn't get into surgery, they could be a fantastic student. They could be completely straight A's. But if they didn't get into surgery, they're going to have to try to find another residency, sometimes a completely different field. But there's not enough spots. It's like musical chairs. I don't know why we allow medical schools to expand their class size when there's not enough residency programs. Personally, I think all medical schools should stop it because they're gaining a lot of money and wait until there's more residency programs. But see, the residency programs don't necessarily want that. They love the idea that there's demand. They want to be able to pick the best of the best, and they don't want to unfill. They don't want to have a residency that has open spots. One, they could lose funding. Two, then they don't have enough hands on deck. So nobody's going to change that. So you have a bunch of people who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to medical school just to know that they could be 1 in 9 to 10,000 who don't get a seat. That sucks. And by the way, when you don't get a seat, you fall. Have you ever played musical chairs? You fall on your ass. It's not good. Now, some of these people could reapply the following year, or they could do research, but it's not easy. So how does this all affect you? Well, one is the numbers are going up, meaning there are going to be more doctors. Are these numbers replacing those doctors retiring and leaving? I don't think so. But it is promising that there are more numbers. Another way how this helps you is we spoke a couple days ago of, the best hospitals and, how, Minnesota Mayo Clinic, was at the top. I don't blame them. Great program, Cleveland Clinic, et cetera. But you're like, well, how do I know in my neck of the woods, where do I go? I recommended to my patients to go to our training hospital, UMC. And I know people would say, why? There's people in training. No, because there's doctors around. Everybody's around. As opposed to some of these other hospitals where your doctor doesn't go in or just maybe calls. And so I would check on my patients in the middle of the night. I would round on them at night, round on them first thing in the morning, round on them with my attending, check on them at lunch, check on them before night's call. You had a doctor or you had a resident or you had somebody or a medical student checking on you. Not to mention, look at the residency programs that are the most popular. These hospitals where medical students are vying for and keep rating this hospital first, that might be because they're a good hospital. A resident or a medical student does not want to go to a hospital where people are dying, where there's not enough staff, where they're going to be overworked and not learn anything. So you might be like, UCLA Medical Center. UMC. The training you get at UMC Hospital in Las Vegas, Nevada is fan-flippantastic. I'm the doctor I am today because of UMC. Training hospital made them who they were. In fact, I got to do more at UMC than I did at UCLA, Ronald Reagan Medical Center. So I got to deliver babies, appendectomies, etc., and no problems. They all survived, and they all did well. So it's a happy match day to you students, but gosh, 9,000 people with no job. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away. Hi, guys. Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. So I'm sure you've seen the headline that thousands of bottles of Benadryl have been recalled due to, quote, child poisoning risk. Now, I'm sure everybody's freaking out. What's in their Benadryl? This is what happened, all right? It's a packaging issue. New York Post is reporting that the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission announced a recall of more than 2,300 bottles because, and it's the packaging. They say it's not the liquid elixir itself, but the bottles. So they're recalling the bottles, not necessarily the medicine in the bottles, but any medicine in those bottles, obviously, go with the recall. So drug maker Arcell has initiated the recall. It affects 100 milliliter bottles of the Benadryl liquid elixir sold in paper boxes with the code X003VRIGUL. And these bottles range from $16 to $19. They were sold between July 2023 and October 2024. Most of us have expired Benadryl. I would throw it out if it's expired. Any of these medications that are liquid and expired. I understand some pills could last beyond their expiration date. We're not allowed in the medical community to say you use it. We recommend that you dispense of these medications properly through your pharmacy or through local medicine return. But in terms of old Benadryl bottles, as long as animals can't get into it, I would throw the bottles out. But the concern is under the Poison Prevention Packaging Act, medications containing diphenhydramine, which is the active ingredient of Benadryl, it's an antihistamine, they have to be packaged in child-resistant containers to prevent young kids from accessing the drug and then accidentally overdosing on it. So they said the recalled bottles of the Benadryl liquid elixir did not meet these safety standards. So like I said, there's nothing necessarily wrong with the actual medication. It's just the bottles could be a risk. And then these kids could be vulnerable to accidental poisoning. There have been no reports, from what I understand, that have come out saying any child has overdosed on it. So, when these complaints happen, a consumer says, the packaging is really easy to open. The bottle just opened up easily. Not to mention, I would be concerned about that, in case could somebody tamper with it. So symptoms of diphenhydramine overdose include blurred vision, dry mouth, a drop in blood pressure, a rapid heartbeat, confusion, hallucinations, and seizures, according to Mount Sinai. So we really need to be careful. And we also don't want our animals getting into it as well. So our cell company recommends disposing of both the bottles and the medication, and you can get a full refund. But, people always think if packaging is child resistant, it's child proof. That doesn't necessarily, the American Association of Poison Control Centers receive over 500,000 reports of medicine poisonings in children under 6 years old. 500,000 plus kids are getting into these medications. They say one child is treated for accidental medicine poisoning in an ER every 8 minutes. That's more than 60,000 kids being rushed to the hospital every year. In 90% of the cases, though, get this, it wasn't the kid reaching for the bottle. That's only 10% of the cases. In 90% of the cases, it's the kids reaching for the bottles. Now, 5% of these poisonings are the adult doing them, where it's dosing errors. One parent this is a biggie that I see. So the child is sneezing, dad's getting them ready for school. And you know what? All right, I'm going to give you something for your allergies here. Okay. Then they get a work phone call. Mom takes over getting the child ready. Child's getting ready. The child's sneezing. Mom's like, you know what? Let me give you something for that. And now that child got 2 doses. Or they gave the wrong dose. I had somebody who self-injected too much Ozempic. They were just starting and they accidentally injected. They didn't do the clicks to mark which amount, and they overdid it. Now, they could have done it on purpose because they really wanted to lose weight, but then they start to feel funny. Yeah, I had to send them to the ER. If your bowels slow down or if, So keep all the medications in a secure cabinet, out of reach and sight of children. Now, I know a lot of people are like, no, I need to access it. I'll forget the code. I don't know where the key is. You do have to have, there's adult safety locks, but you have to do this right. I understand a lot of people leave stuff on their counter. The mind of a kid is interesting. Sometimes kids, like this is something I would do as a kid. Now I was a stupid kid. I didn't do this, but this is what my thinking was. I never wanted to stay home with my mom. I didn't like my mom. I get in trouble a lot. So I wanted to go to school. So something I would do as a kid, if I was, a thinking pattern I would have is don't let my mom hear the coughing and the sneezing. Take the medicine to hide it from my mom so I could still go to school. See, that's how some kids think. I know you guys are like, Dr. Daliah, you're an idiot. Well, as a kid, yeah, I wasn't the smartest. But that's how kids can think. So they might treat themselves. Or they might hear mom tell dad, that was so good. You did that early. You did something. Or they'll hear older brother be told, you did something without me telling you. You actually took out the garbage without me telling you to do it. That's such a good boy. So younger sibling could be like, well, you know what? Then I'm going to take my medicine before my mom tells me I need to. Well, what protects these kids is the bottles are impossible to open for a kid unless they start to, figure out how to do it. A lot of times we carry our medications in our purses. I always have either Tylenol or Benadryl or something in my purse. The kids have access to that. That's not a locked cupboard. Another mistake a lot of grown-ups do is they put medications in other containers. Okay, that's a big mistake. Now, you would be like, why the world would somebody transfer a medication from one bottle to another that's not the same bottle? They might like the size. I got ibuprofen during one of my surgeries, and that bottle is ridiculously big. And there's only a few tablets left because it's been years, and I should throw it out because it's expired. But I sometimes don't throw out old ibuprofen, especially the 800s. I should. So I might transfer those, which is a bad thing to do, to a smaller bottle when I travel. Don't be doing that. Somebody may be trying to hide medication. This is why this is so scary. People may try to hide narcotics from their family members or make the narcotic look like it's a full prescription, that they weren't taking it. So they may add other pills that look similar. I had one patient where their family member put Augmentin, an antibiotic, because the white tablets looked similar. Are you kidding me? No. So now there's an antibiotic instead of a pain pill. What if somebody's allergic to penicillin? So don't be doing that. Also, don't assume your child can't open a medicine package or container. Child-resistant packaging is not child-proof. It makes it harder for them, but according to Nemours Children's Health, just because it's more difficult doesn't mean it's child-proof. Okay, there's not a lot of things that are child-proof. Children know how to get into stuff. They're smart. And a big mistake I've been telling people is stop telling your kid it's candy to get your kid to take the medicine. I never did that with my kids. I'm like, you're getting medicine. They needed to know what the hell it was. But you tell them it's candy, then they're going to think it's candy and not understand the difference. 1-877 Dr. Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So yesterday it was a mess at Heathrow Airport. One of UK's busiest airports had to cancel flights and postpone them. 1,300 flights were affected. I've flown into Heathrow, beautiful airport. I like that I can understand everything when I'm there. Although I always feel like my grammar is much worse or not better than everybody else's. So I try to speak as little as possible when I'm in London, England, because it's so proper. And the grammar is spit, spot, perfect. Well, thousands had to not be able to fly, but even worse, There were thousands of homes left without power because there was a nearby electricity substation that had a fire. 100 people had to be evacuated after a transformer at the substation caught on fire and a huge explosion was heard. Now electricity has been returned to the airport after an interim solution was found by engineers at National Grid. Reporters inside Terminal 4 said lights in the main building have been switched back on and the parking lot is operational. They call it a car park, but it's what we call a parking lot. In a statement, the airport announced that it's now safely able to begin to resume some flights. Not sure exactly what happened, but we're being told that British flights might get precedence. And so they might have to divert other passengers to other European airports if they need to connect and they need to I guess, continue their travel. But we're being told that it's starting to get back online. Just it's going to be a little bumpy. It was a catastrophic failure of an oil-filled transformer that caused the devastating fire at the electricity station. And the substation involved 25,000 liters of cooling oil that ignited. So, wow, pretty interesting. I guess London Mayor Sadiq Khan back in 2022 identified problems with the electricity supply system in Heathrow. And they warned that the North Hyde substation, which exploded, had been running at 106.2% capacity. So what does this have to do with us? Well, one is if you're a traveler, it might be a little difficult, especially if you have a direct to Heathrow. But the other thing, too, is we need to learn from Europe's mistakes. Okay, America has always, since the beginning, learned from Europe's mistakes. That's why we have such an amazing constitution. But these electrical grids, a grid running 106.2% of capacity. I'm still confused because 100% is supposed to be 100%. But running over and demanding over capacity, we have that problem. I understand a lot of people want to buy Tesla to support Elon Musk. I think that's fantastic. Very nice of you to do that. But I'm still hesitating on buying an electric vehicle. I do not like the idea of hitting something and a fire, ensuing very quickly. And I've seen video after video of these accidents hit a tree, hit a wall, and then immediately ignite. Now, I'm not saying all fuel-injected cars are fireproof. No, they also have car fires. And in fact, studies have shown the fuel-injected cars and non-zero emission vehicles are even more likely to undergo a fire. It's just what I've seen with these electric vehicles and the difficulty to douse them and extinguish them. I'm just a little hesitant. And I'm also a little hesitant on everybody relying on the grid. See, I live in Southern Nevada, and we every summer get told to hold back on when we're using, appliances and certain things because the electrical grid for air conditioning and et cetera is being overused. Now, when people lose their power or they lose their air conditioning, in the heat of the summer, it's dangerous. And we rely on power. A car is elective. I understand it protects us and it's essential. But a car requiring now an electricity load is elective. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, we need our refrigerators to work. We need our freezers to work. We need our air conditioning to work. So those things are very essential. Now, all of a sudden, we're adding an essential element to our electrical grid. We don't need any more essentials. Okay, why do you think we're trying to push for solar power? But before we did that, Democrats were really trying to mandate electric vehicle consumption. It's still in use. It's still being done in California. And I'm just not convinced that that's the safest or the right way to go. I love the idea of fewer emissions. I think the hybrids are brilliant. Yes, you could plug them in, et cetera. But, if your use is already recharging the battery any less, I just want us relying less on our power grid. And this is an example of it. When our power goes, a lot of things are disrupted. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Speaking of disruption, these Tesla, I don't want to call them vandals, domestic terrorists, that are causing mayhem, trying to out Tesla owners on their Dodge Quest site and throwing Nazi symbols and Molotov cocktails and all sorts of other things. Trump has spoken out and has issued a warning. And he threatened that he may send them to the same hellish El Salvadorian prison where he has deported the Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang members. And when Attorney General Pam Bondi vowed that the suspects would face the full force of the law using Molotov cocktails to set fire to Tesla chargers and the charging stations and cars, she said, if you join this wave of domestic terrorism against Tesla properties, the Department of Justice will put you behind bars. So Trump posted, I look forward to watching the sick terrorist thugs get 20-year jail sentences for what they are doing to Elon Musk and Tesla. Perhaps they could serve them in the prisons in El Salvador, which have become so recently famous for such lovely conditions. So, reading his tweets, I think they're really his tweets. Okay, but it's ridiculous what people are doing. And when I saw firefighters stand there for extended periods of time trying to douse one fire with water, we really want to let this happen. And why aren't more Democrats speaking out? I mean, this is a bad thing. I've said this before. If the Democrats want to get more voters and rebuild, use common sense. Speak out when you need to. If something's wrong, say it's wrong. If a little boy who survived cancer is becoming an honorary now member of the Secret Service, applaud the kid. Use common sense. But instead, they feel like their loyalty has to be to the hate side, the anti-Trump, anti-Elon side. Well, I mean, why do you think John Fetterman is starting to get a lot of attention? Because he says it like it is. If I was a Democrat, I would stand up there and say, hey, guys, this is wrong. This is ridiculous. Stop this BS. I don't care how you feel about Elon Musk and Doge. You don't do this. This is domestic terrorism. This is beyond vandalism. This is coordinated and it's disgusting. But really, you could say that. You don't have to say you are falling in love with Elon Musk and supporting Doge efforts to stop waste, fraud, and abuse, which, by the way, I think is also smart for the Democrats. I think they should say, look, we're going to work with Trump on this. But, well, that's the state of politics today. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.